Hi, I'm Colin McDermott, and this is my 2019 summer semester senior project presentation. And I'm actually here in the basement room that I finished. So this really hits close to home for me because not only do I live here, but this is also a business to me. And this isn't my forever home. This is a home that I am planning on doing a live in remodel, rehab, then refinance and use that money to move on and buy other units. So let me just go over my presentation for you. Here's my table of contents. Start with an introduction. I talk a little bit about the background, the upgrades that I did, the timeline, a budget, a typical basement remodel costs, the actual expenses that I experienced, a breakdown of those expenses in a graph, some of the plans I have for this property, like the potential for Airbnb or short term rentals. Then also some life lessons I learned about communication with tenants and how it's so important to place good tenants in your rentals because a lot of these remodel issues that I'm experiencing, I wouldn't have had to deal with them if the tenants in this home was comfortable speaking to me, the landlord. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. The long term plan that I have for my real estate investing business, a couple physical health conflicts that I had over the semester that it did make doing this work really challenging, but I feel like I worked through it and I learned a lot about myself in the process. And I talk about the injury as a source of inspiration and how I channeled that negative energy into something positive and the treatment that I used to do that. Another problem that I experienced was a giant hole in the wall, which I like to refer to this area as. So I call it the built in entertainment area now, but it used to just be a big hole in the wall covered with a giant frame, and I'll tell you how I removed that and replaced it. I'll talk about the application of coursework and how the classes I took at Utah State are relevant to this project, and I'll reflect on the lessons learned and talk about a conclusion. So, first of all, thank you for listening to this. And my name is Colin McDermott. I live in Logan with my family, and I'm a student. I also work full time, but deep down, I want to be a real estate investor. And it's a personal business goal of mine and also a lifestyle choice because I've chosen to live and owner occupy the units that I buy, which sets me apart from a lot of investors, I think. And so I'm a technology systems senior. This is actually my last semester. I walked in the spring graduation ceremony, but I needed to finish up a couple classes, and this was one of them. And I'm emphasizing in product development. So instead of taking the traditional route, because I've never really been a traditional student, so in my mind, I've taken the product development aspect of this degree, and instead of applying it towards like outdoor product design or clothing design, I want to focus more on the design and the interaction of humans with their living spaces. I mean, we spend so much time in our apartments and our homes, and we don't even really consider it most of the time or how things make us do certain things. And so that's my niche. I want to focus on multifamily homes in Logan that will bring me a steady income and will also provide the community with places for students to live because if Logan's gonna have a environment and the university to bring students in, they need places to live, and I've known that firsthand. I've been a student. I moved to Logan. I didn't always live here, and so I know what that's like. So this is a buy and hold investment, which I plan on keeping for a long time, but I don't plan on living here forever. I just plan on living here till it's finished and then moving out. So let me give you a little background about this project and about the property in general. So it's pretty cool. This property is really unique. It's actually two separate single family homes that are on one lot, but they can never be divided, so it's one parcel. So this zoning classification allows both the homes to be rented And I first bought the property, I moved into the smaller back home and renovated that. And while I was living there, this front home, 466 West, 300 North, which there's a picture in my presentation, it actually flooded and caused a lot of damage to the basement. And there was tenants living there at the time. They were really upset with the damages, and they felt like they didn't have to pay rent because of the damages that occurred. And it was kind of a mess because I was a new landlord. I didn't really know what to do, but we were still figuring it out, and I think we're doing a decent job. Our first order of business was get the tenant out of there so we could clean it up. And the flood water did bring in a lot of dirt and a lot of like dust and waste. And so, first of all, we had to get the water up, then we had to clean up all that dirt. And because I didn't want the water to wick up all the sheetrock, because it already came up several feet, because it's a couple days before the tenant even notified me of the problem, I cut the sheetrock up about 4 feet. And this was to keep air circulating through to prevent mold from growing in the walls. And so, yeah, the overall goal is to finish this basement with 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a living room, and a laundry room. And fair market rent for a 4 bedroom home in Cache Valley is $12-13 a month. But I easily think I could get $1,300 to $1,400 a month once it's finished the way I'd like. And the upgrades that I did here includes a new ceiling, updated electrical, as you can see these new can lights. These 2 framed-in shelves that you can see over here, 1 and 2. And there was this brittle vinyl flooring that was all over the ground that had this weird rubbery smell that was scraped up, and it's actually covered with carpet now, so you can't tell, but it was a big chore. And then this opening over here, it didn't used to be an opening, it actually used to be a wall, but it was just so congested when you come down these stairs, so I opened it up into this big area. And because down here there was these little cement footers that the wall was built on, so I had to chip those up, and it busted holes in this foundation, so I didn't fill the foundation. So it's been a project. It's been, I've been doing a lot of things, all variety of construction work. Started on May 6th and ending today actually for this class, but there's a couple things I'll talk about, like the window. I ordered a new window because I think that really just finished this basement room out, but it's a custom made window, so it's taking months and months to get here, but once it gets here I'll install that as well. And kind of just shows how novice of a builder I was when I first originated this proposal. I called for a complete basement renovation in those 3 months, 2 full bedrooms, a full bath, a living space. And honestly, I need like 2 or 3 years at the rate that it takes me to do these things, not 3 months. So it's unrealistic for me in that time frame. So I had to change the plans. I scaled back just finishing this single room completely. I wanted it painted and furnished so that we could start using this space. It's been unused space for a long time, and this almost doubles the floor plan of my home, so it's been really nice. And I have a chart in here included, but 29% of my costs were just tools. So now that I have those tools, I can keep continuing to learn and to grow my skill set as being a builder, designer, and a remodeler. And also, value-driven landlord. I'm looking to drive up the value of the properties I live in with remodels and improvements. And initially, I just kind of ballparked $4,000 to finish this basement completely. And the more research I've done, it's about $10 a square foot if you do all the work yourself. If you have someone else do it, it's about $35 to $45 a square foot. A lot of these numbers are coming from the Basement Finishing University online course that I actually purchased, and it's been very, very helpful. But here they go through the costs: framing $1,200, plumbing $2,100, electrical $800, and so on. And this is for a complete basement. And since I only did 1 room, it is significantly less, but I still had a lot of expenses, which I break down here in this actual expense column. I seriously felt like I was like living in Home Depot. I was there all the time. But here's a graph that shows the breakdown of my expenses. Like I said, 29% were tools, 9% consumables. I'm talking, razor blades, glue, construction adhesive, tape, drill bits, stuff like that. 14% on sheetrock, 11% on lumber. And that lumber and sheetrock, man, is hard. I have a 5.5 foot bed on my truck, so hauling a 10-foot piece of sheetrock or a 12-foot piece of lumber was extremely difficult. 1% on cement. I mean, I only barely did one bag of cement to just fill in that patch, that hole. Paint, 8%. I only got 5 gallons, but it was expensive paint, but it should last. It's a nice, has a nice gloss sheen to it, and it wipes right off. It's easy to clean up. 7% on electrical work. This is the can lights and wire nuts and the wire and stuff like that. Oh, excuse me, 2% was consumables, 9%. Something's wrong with that graph anyway. Yeah, so that shows my breakdown. I'd spent a total of $2,030.85. 43% of my budget went to just tools and sheetrock. I have plenty of sheetrock left over to finish at least one more room. So my estimate, the cost of future projects will be cut by about a third because I have the tools and most of the sheetrock already. So as I said, once this basement's finished, I want to rent out the whole home, probably to a family or maybe per bedroom to students. But in the meantime, I want to Airbnb this basement. And since this property has 2 entrances and a lockable kitchen door upstairs, I can lock the kitchen door and access the upstairs through the front door, while a short-term renter could access the back door, side door, and come down the stairs. And this would be a great another stream of income for me. As a student, a recent graduate, any stream of income I can get is really nice to have. I talked earlier about a tenant communication problem that I had, and one of the problems I encountered is when I first purchased the home, the tenant in place, I didn't feel like he respected me. To him, I was younger than him. He had lived here before I even knew about the place, and he wasn't going to listen to me. So when the basement flooded, he waited like 4 or 5 days before he said anything. First of all, he thought he was going to get in trouble, but I told him, dude, based upon the contract that you signed when I purchased this home, by failing to tell me about information like this, you're actually held liable, where if you would tell me right off the bat, you wouldn't be. It was a mess. We had to evict him. It was a huge headache. So this is it, and the problem is I inherited this tenant by purchasing the property. From now on, every time I purchase a property, I'm going to ask one of the conditions of the sale is to have it be free from tenants, because I want to screen my own tenants. I don't want to have to put up with other tenants. Like, it's always a mess. We're never on the same page. So like I said, I'm just super grateful I was able to work on my own home like this. Like, not many people get this kind of opportunity. And like I said, I just want to keep searching for rental properties that I can own or occupy, force appreciation by making improvements and upgrades, and then refinance and use that increased equity to purchase more properties. Oh man, conflicts. I had a lot of conflicts, I felt like, just during this semester, but one of the major ones was a physical health conflict. I actually did some damage to my lower lumbar region of my spine. The beginning of the semester, I went home, and you can read the story in here, but I went home to my dad's old house, and I had a zip line there that I built when I was like in 5th grade. Well, I tried the zip line, and the rope snapped, and I fell and landed straight on my butt and my heels. Broke my tailbone and compressed my lower lumbar region of my spine, and it's crazy what a couple millimeters of difference in your spinal alignment can do to your overall health. Like, I seriously couldn't walk for a couple weeks, and still it's a huge source of pain. I was depressed when this first happened. I'm not gonna lie. Like a lot of what I like to do involves being active, and having chronic pain totally changes the game, But I did use it as inspiration because this is a goal to me. Like it's a sobering reality. Our bodies aren't gonna last forever, and if I die, who's gonna provide for my family? It's a sad truth, but it's something we all need to consider. I want to set up real estate ventures that will continue to pay my family even if I'm not here. And that's what that really reinforced for me. And the treatment to overcome this problem was, well, I had some mental blockages I had to work through myself because, I saw my dad have a debilitating disease and how it totally changed his life and for the worse. And he was never able to cope with it. That's not something I want to deal with. So I had to cope with those problems right off the bat. And I'm still dealing with treatment now. I'm been meeting with Stevens Chiropractic twice a week to work through this therapy and doing stretches twice a day, every day to try to work through it. So it's still on the mend, but it's helped a lot. So another problem I experienced during this project was this giant hole in the wall. So it was actually, I pointed to it here. It actually used to be a giant glass and wood framed photo of like a lake with a they cut the wall out behind it so they could put a light back there, and when they turned the light on, it shined through the picture frame. And it was cool, but it was also a really bad image that was blown up bigger than it should have been, so it was all blurry and distorted, and it was just something that I felt like we needed to change. Also, I don't really want to have a giant, it was like 115 pounds. I don't want to have a 115-pound glass sheet hanging up above where my daughter plays. Like, it just isn't very safe. And I have been using software and resources like Basement Finishing University to work through these problems, but there isn't stuff like this in there. This is just so specific to this home. So I had to use my own creativity and problem solving to figure it out. First, what I had to do was remove it. I had to get a couple friends to come over here, build some prop sticks to hold it up, remove the hinges, slowly lower it down to the ground, carry it out, and I donated it to the DI. I hope someone can get some use out of that giant thing, and I don't know what they're going to do with it, but hopefully they enjoy it. I then decided to turn that area into an entertainment center. Like I put a shelf in out of a reclaimed board that actually was a floor joist from this property. So it's kind of cool to see it repurposed, and the flaws in the wood just give it more character. And I also framed in, and I'll come over here closer so you can see better what I'm talking about. This is the opening. On each side, I framed in hollow beams with the wire running down to outlets. So that outlet will supply the TV and DVD player, whatever electronics. So there's not cords that little kids would trip over or yank out of the wall, stuff like that. And it was really fun, and I think it totally changes this basement. It makes it more functional, and it's really minimal and effective. And then as far as applying coursework, one of my favorite classes was color theory with Julie Lamara. She was a great teacher. But in color theory, we discussed how, depending on how colors are layered, they can actually change the environments and change the colors around them to appear differently depending on the contrast. And I was thinking of that when I chose the color for this room. I didn't want a too bright white that would be like too bright, and especially with all the lights I put in, I didn't want it to be too shiny. So I decided on a peppered white, and I think it's a really classy, elegant look, and the whiteness actually makes the room appear a lot bigger. So it's like we gained square footage even though we really didn't. It just appears like we did. Another application of the coursework, and this might not be a typical answer, but I've been to 3 universities in Utah. I went to SUU, went to UVU, and now Utah State. Every university I've been to, every class I've taken, it's always on the students' minds. Where am I going to live? How am I going to be able to pay rent? who am I going to live with? Is the house going to be, is it going to match up with my goals of what it takes to finish university classes? Because it takes a certain specific environment to live in order to be successful. And especially Logan's a college town. It's a perfect niche for my real estate portfolio right now. Like, students are always going to need places to live. I have a connection to Utah State, and I'm going to continue to provide rental for students because I at a decent price because I don't want students to get gouged. I know what it's like. I want them to give them a good deal on a home that they can live in and get a college degree to better their life. And reflection and lessons learned. I learned a lot at Utah State. And one of the most important things I learned was making my education fit me. I transferred to technology systems. Like I probably changed my major 3 or 4 times in college, and like I said, I went to 3 different universities. Like I'm a non-traditional student. This is a non-traditional route. I needed a degree that matches that idea, and that's what I loved about tech systems. It could change depending on your environments, and I could choose the classes I wanted to fit into my schedule. And I mean, I was taking classes on welding and science and technology in modern society, yoga, the study of Buddhism, electronic fundamentals, outdoor industry, fashion design, color theory, public speaking, sketching, statistics, all of that. And to cap it all off, my last class at Utah State is a class remodeling my rental property that, out of everything I've learned, applying it to this is really going to help my family and my future, and I'm really grateful for that opportunity. Because my education has been a bricolage of varied interests and skills and my environmental influences. It's like I said, I got into real estate investing because I was a student and I knew what it was like to need a place to live. And in conclusion, I feel like I've clawed my way through this degree. Like, I've been juggling a full-time job. I have a life. I have a family, a new daughter, a real estate investing business. I'm busy. And it's been a struggle. And I don't want my daughter to have to struggle like that if she wants a college degree. My parents never thought about putting their kids through college. I want my daughter to be able to have a college degree and have an income that provides for that. And that's why I want to get into real estate investing. In 18 years, if I don't have the funds to send her through college and she wants to go, I could sell a rental property and it'll be a liquidable asset. It's enough to pay for her education, and that's important to me. And I want to develop a system, like a system of technologies that will enable this real estate venture to just snowball and grow as I go. And I plan to use systems of technology to find and communicate with renters, to collect rent mobily, to secure and protect the premises, and also present my ideas and findings to banks and other investors to secure like a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, or other types of financing for future growth. And I say bricolage investments because that's the name I've been tossing around, and it's something I'm interested in because that's totally how I am. I'm always about how can I take this environment that's around me and change it in a better way and improve it. And we want to talk about suggestions. I really think they should add more trade work to the technology systems department. I know they really scaled down the welding division a while ago, but I really think real estate investing would be an awesome course to have at Utah State. And then more like framing, electrical, and remodeling courses. Here's a couple pictures. And I'll just briefly walk you through here so you can see. Because I also want to show off these electrical lights that I put in have a nighttime mode that I'm really jazzed about. So, thank you so much for watching this. Thanks for the opportunity to be able to build my own real estate portfolio for my degree, and I'm so grateful to be here. Thanks.